If I was still doing backgrounds, the background I would have picked is the final pause of the scene where it says directed by George P. Cosmatos. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. And
Okay,
that,
why? Okay, why wasn't it?
Let's
Oh, wait,
let's
are we
talk about
starting?
that.
Yeah, we're starting
Okay, why
Uh,
wasn't it directed by George P. Cosmatos?
I actually listened to a
because
really long
it was
podcast about this.
directed by Kurt Russell.
I didn't know
So
that. I did not know
they
that.
had three directors, which is why it's a fucking
Yeah.
kind of a,
So-
they set out to make a Western, they made a spaghetti Western.
yeah,
Mhm.
so this guy named Kevin
But you're
Jarre,
the best.
Kevin Jarre wrote this screenplay, and he was supposed to direct it.
Mhm.
It would have been his first big feature, but he was a pretty experienced writer. In fact, everybody loved this script. I mean, this script was like one of the hottest scripts at the time.
It's like
And
a
it was supposed
blacklist
to-
type script.
Well, it was supposed to be this like 3 hour long, beautiful Western, like Dances with Wolves had hit, and this was supposed to be like a new, better Dances with Wolves about the Wild West and about, Wyatt Earp and this whole thing and Tombstone. And of course, you got studio interference. But the thing is when they started making the movie, Kevin Jarre was very green and he didn't really know, like he was just shooting really beautiful, long, wide shots. And he would have all the action happen in wides. And everybody was like, are you not going to get coverage? And he says, no, have you ever seen a David Lean movie? I'm trying to do that.
my
you know?
God.
He's like, I don't want that. I don't want this
Those
to be.
shots are admittedly very pretty. If those
Yes.
Trying to
And
make
they-
well, shooting on location in Arizona really helps.
Yeah.
So long story short, they fired his ass
Mm,
and
got some damn close-ups.
which is really sad though, actually, because he sounds like a really nice guy, or at least a creative guy who had a vision.
Yeah,
They fired him. They couldn't find anyone to come and take it over. Who almost took it over? Somebody who
Gaspar Noé.
yeah, no.
Okay, okay.
No, it was someone like Neil Jordan or someone like that. Like someone way experienced, and he was like, I need like at least a month to prep, so you got to shut it down. And they were like, that's going to cost us too
6
much.
days.
Yeah, so they brought in George Cosmatos, and who had done.
Who's seen his other movies? Because
So
what else has he made? I don't even know.
oh, it's a good list.
He did Rambo.
Rambo.
That's right.
Leviathan,
Leviathan,
the Shadow
Cassandra
Conspiracy.
Crossing, all of which are craptacular or extremely craptacular.
Yeah, he
Okay.
makes, but they knew he could. He was like
here's
supposed to
the
just
thing.
come in and whip it into shape, type of thing.
Mhm.
But so here's the thing. There are long-standing rumors that both Cobra and First Blood Part 2 were shadow directed by Stallone.
I believe it.
It's
That makes
probably
sense.
true.
He could
There
do
is
it.
also a rumor that I said the name of it just now. and
Leviathan,
no, the other one.
Cassandra
Um,
Crossing.
No, the other one.
Your other one.
That was directed by Charlie Sheen. Like
So Cosmatos is the guy you hire when the star really wants
So
you to
he's
get out of the
basically-
way.
He's a living, breathing.
Yeah, and the way I heard him describe was
Kilmer,
like
Kilmer supports it in his book. He's supported it in interviews. Bean says that he never directed him personally, but that they spent a shitload of time together in
well here
Russell's trailer.
yes,
at
that's right.
night.
Because here's what actually
Figuring it
happened.
out.
This is actually what happened. Every night Russell would go to his trailer and he would storyboard the whole fucking next day.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep.
This is true.
I
He would
believe
stay
it.
up all night. He would storyboard it all, make notes, and he would just hand it to George in the morning.
Right.
And,
So-
then, and
so-
George was the kind of director that would go, okay, we're just doing that all day.
And what Cosmatos was really giving to the film was historical accuracy.
Yeah.
He was big into we're gonna have the right kind of guns, we're gonna have the right kind of boots, we're gonna have the right
Actually,
kind of
mostly
Really
that
good
was
at mustache
Jar.
down,
Actually,
man,
that was
because-
mostly Jar. Did you know everything was rented out because this was a competition film with Costner's Wyatt Earp, and Costner wanted this film to fail. They had asked Costner to do the Kurt Russell role. He turned it down.
Wow.
He had his own Wyatt Earp movie going.
which
and
is terrible.
It is terrible, and he lost this battle. This is the little movie that could, by the way.
Right.
And Costner owned the world. He had just gotten the Academy Award for Dances with Wolves. He was on fire in this genre, and he rented out every single Western thing in America. So all the costumes and sets from this were built in Europe.
Oh, I believe it.
sent over here.
And all the
Wow.
costumes were made by hand. Yeah, I know.
And all the
that.
costumes were made
What?
by hand.
But you
is
know
the
what?
name of the Costner version of this story.
It's called Wyatt Earp.
Wyatt Earp. Okay.
But the thing is,
it's broader. It starts in Dodge City. It ends after his career or after his time in Tombstone.
yeah, that's right.
And they were also racing for release dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that struck me watching this again is like behind Chris, the walrus mustaches. That's historically accurate.
Yep.
These guys are actually going to commit to doing something that felt real. And
They
the
all
language
grew.
was also very good in terms of like trying to convey an 18th century. No, you're not using contractions, using like colorful kind of like metaphors. That was wonderful. It was very detailed.
Every time somebody drops a fuck in this movie, it is an emphasis on on their character.
Yes.
Because like when he says Frederick fucking Chopin,
Yeah,
you
love
understand
that.
that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
That's him pointing his finger at you and going, "You're too stupid to
good.
be in this conversation."
Yes.
Like,
And there's another aspect to this production design and costume that I would like to note, which is both Jarre and then Cosmatos backed it up, which was they purposely wanted everything to look new and clean.
Right.
Because we always do because Kevin Jarre was smart and Cosmatos agreed. He was like, every time you see a Western, they make it look quote unquote old timey,
Dusty.
but he said
This
at the time it was
yesterday.
exactly. He's like, at the time it was not old timey.
That was one thing I loved about
new.
their version of Tombstone is you can see buildings being built.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And their color, it's colorful. This is a colorful movie.
You got to admit, it got a little silly at some point because Wyatt Earp and his family, beautiful clean white shirts and nice flat brimmed hats. They looked perfect all the time.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the bad guys, the Clantons,
They were
the Clantons, like that their gang.
They're
they're cowboys. They're running around all over.
They're urban sophisticates.
They are.
So the whole point of this film, and really the true thing that happened, is that the history of this is that this is a battle between Lincolnite Republican urban dwellers and Southern Democrat rural dwellers.
It's a culture war.
Basically, runaways from the Civil War. But
Well, and in the beginning, they say it too. They're
the
like,
first culture war.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the movie, he says, we're going to be as big as San Francisco in, a couple months. Like,
Uh-huh.
they're really trying to make this cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
And I loved
the
Michael Biehn.
The narrator says
Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday's little sparring in the casino in Latin.
That's just one of the best scenes.
Come on, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
And so that scene was written where Val Kilmer was supposed to do his gun as well,
Right.
but they made that up on the spot.
Right.
And Kilmer just did it with the cup, and everyone was like, that is the best.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
that's the thing.
Put it in the movie.
I saw this movie when it came out. I remembered absolutely fucking nothing about it except for Val Kilmer. And in 20 years, the only thing I'm going to remember about this movie was fucking Val Kilmer. The best hot take I saw about this movie was this feels like a first cut. This cast is stacked. It
Oh,
is
yeah.
ridiculous,
Stacked.
this cast.
Yes.
That's why it was supposed to be this epic, dude.
Really
you
fucking
compare
good.
this to the Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp movie, and the cast in that, and you can tell that better actors like Kurt Russell.
Right.
Listen, I think the acting in this movie is really, really fucking good. I mean,
Although Silverado was a pretty good film.
Wait, he's channeling what's his name from Blue Velvet though?
Dude.
Dean Stockwell.
A little bit. The thing is, Doc Holliday has always been a
I think this should have been an Academy Award-winning performance.
From
I agree.
the original OK Corral in
The
19.
stacked. The locations are great. The long shots are great. But the entire time I'm watching it, I'm like, well, okay, the stunt work in the first half is not particularly great for 1997. The squib work is not particularly great for 1997. I didn't think the action scenes were particularly well executed. Like, there's a lot of things that are like choppy and kind of weird. And so by the time
it's
you get
true.
to the end, I go, this feels like it could have been tightened up.
Yeah.
But they released the first cut. Like,
I didn't have.
put it out there.
I don't think
it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be bigger in scope, and I think that there's a lot of studio interference probably here, obviously, and also they're
constantly running out of money too.
Yeah. And this is an admittedly, listen, without the performances, this is honestly just a silly movie. It's a silly western.
Even with the performances, it is somewhat a silly movie.
Sure.
I mean, there's definitely some moments.
Yeah, Jared, finish your thought.
Well, and they also found the movie originally did not focus so much on Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp's relationship, but during cutting, they found out, no, that is the strongest part of this movie, and that's why you get this friendship story, really.
Yeah.
And I mean, even as silly as this movie is, that final scene, those final scenes in the hospital bed, I get choked up. You know,
the scene, the lines that I quote from this movie the most, the one that sticks with me the most out of all of this is.
Can I guess it? Can I guess it?
Yeah. What guess?
I'm gonna guess when he says, "Hell, Doc, I got a lot of friends," and he goes, "I don't."
Oh, I know.
That's also one of my favorite lines.
Okay, well,
that is 1,000% this character, and you can see Kilmer even go to that place in his head because it's so zoomed in on him when he says it, and it's like you can see him have that moment of like, I don't have friends.
Yeah,
one of my friends,
I agree.
One of my friends just
moment.
died.
Right.
And that's the reason that I'm doing this is because one of the only people in the world who cared about me got killed by these people, and I'm going to help his brother put all of them in the ground, whether or not it kills me.
Right.
And I think Kilmer's performance, and then like has been said here, the relationship between him, the Doc Holliday relationship. Is the heart of this thing, and it's what makes it work. And there's beautiful scenery and stuff. There's some definite scenes that don't work. There's some real hokum in this movie.
Yeah,
sure.
Holy moly! Like when they cut to the gun, and there's this huge orchestral thing. Like he opens the box, and his big old long pistol sitting in the box, and the music is just like da-da! And he's gonna get his gun out now.
Yeah.
Well, that pistol was presented to him by Colt.
Yeah.
It was one of 6 made that were given to famous law enforcement officers around the country.
I'm just talking about the direction.
Okay, 2 things. I'm
talking about the artistic choices.
I've been waiting long enough. One thing is that Chris pointed out that he was focused on Val Kilmer when he first saw it, and he saw it now. I was not. I think this is a great ensemble film. I think everybody puts in amazing performances.
I agree.
Yes, but Kilmer's this much.
Well, the thing is,
up.
that's the second point I'm going to make. The thing is, I loved everybody, even like Dave Delaney actually did a great job. So, as a ensemble film works, everybody works together to kind of weave a kind of a connection and story. And even the bad guys, Powers Booth and Michael Biehn and all those guys were great.
Powers Booth. Rest in peace, Powers Booth, one of the best bad guys of all time.
Also,
he could bad guy it up in any movie.
That was something that changed as well. In the original script, Powers Booth was the main bad guy, not Johnny Ringo.
Okay, the second thing I mentioned is that does anyone ever here see the gunfight, the OK Corral from the 1940s?
No.
Okay. One of the things about Doc Holliday is Doc Holliday is this perennial, it's what I call a Camille character. A consumptive dandy.
He's
always has been this dandy from the East who's sick and like, they're going to kick, right? And so it has always been, everybody who plays Doc Holliday in every film about the OK Corral, and there have been a lot of them, always goes over the top. So I forgot who played him in the one I saw, the Henry Fonda one, but he did the same thing. I think it was Robert Mitchum. But
yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, and it's like over the top.
There has been many versions.
Every scene they're like pale and covered with sweat and like the whole thing. It's just it's part of the character. You know what I mean?
So we had talked about
he's dying of tuberculosis.
I know, it's great.
Dying of tuberculosis.
No, here's your chance. Run with it, man. Go for it.
And he did. I mean, it is the most memorable thing in the film.
He doesn't have Christian movie cancer. The real guy was dying of tuberculosis.
Yeah, exactly.
You're allowed to do that when the actual
That's true.
dies 3 years later.
So we think this movie had budgetary problems, right? And also was it cut down from a longer version?
I don't think so.
No, they never really made the longer version.
They didn't finish the long version. It was written.
Because
What they
I
did was they
felt-
fucked with the script over and
I
over.
watched
again.
it. I watched it over 2 nights, and I could really feel the difference between the first half of this movie and the second half of this movie. And
Another
It's a
thing
little
was
rushed.
a couple of unfortunate things happened around the midpoint of this movie, and that is
yeah.
the Earps split up, and one of them's dead, and one of them is on a train out of town, and it's
Right.
just Wyatt.
Your
But
second
that's also a thing that happened in real life.
I know it had to be true to the
But
history.
you also
I'm just saying,
get a
second act
great
crisis.
But you
for
also get a
narrative
great scene where he
purposes, that's
says,
unfortunate.
but you get a great scene where Russell gets to say, "You tell him I'm coming,
Yeah.
and I'm bringing
Okay.
hell with me." That's
Okay.
so awesome.
Okay, I don't know.
There's a vein that's popping out in his eyelid that's
Yes.
like that big.
It's so
which means you
cool.
can tell he had to do that take like 5 times in a row.
It's just
Louder.
But
The other thing that happens around the midpoint is that okay? So the
Corral scene.
Earps are broken up. Then he gets like a
Okay,
couple of
Corral seems
recruits.
great.
He gets a couple of recruits who've decided that the Cowboys have gone too far, so they throw their red sashes down, and now they're on the good guys team.
Only one.
I thought it was
Only
him.
one.
How does he end up
No, I think it was
McMaster's-
3.
No, because it's him.
No,
It's
no.
him and Doc
Mc-
Holliday and 2 other guys.
Okay,
Yeah, 2 other guys. 2 guys did it.
McMaster's is the one who leaves. Michael Rooker is the one who leaves. Turkey Creek Jack Johnson and Texas Vermillion are the 2 guys from the beginning of the movie who shoot the dudes in front of the saloon.
Right.
Oh.
And they knew Wyatt from back in the day in Dodge City.
All right.
And that's when Holiday has that great line, mind your ear, Jack. And he goes like this, and he's taking a stray right across the ear.
Yeah, his ears cut open.
Yeah, and that's Turkey Creek, and yeah.
See, I didn't
That's
even
familiar.
make that connection. It was just these 2 guys, and I never knew who they were from that
Because
point
those
on.
2 guys that are remaining are the only 2 guys in this cast I didn't fucking recognize.
Right? Yeah, maybe that's it.
Oh,
The
Jason.
dude who plays the dude who plays Turkey Creek Jack Johnson's been in a lot of westerns.
Oh,
It's
this
to
is
me
Ja-
the
this is
third thing
Jason
that's
Priest.
unfortunate is that Michael Bean dies, and then the movie just kind of it's got a deflating
Yeah.
balloon from that point forward.
Now hold on. There's the arc with Josephine. Dana Delaney. That
Yeah.
I thought was fascinating because when I mentioned, I quipped last week about this film is a lot about
Talk
mostly
later.
about people getting fucked up, and that's true. It's
Little
like. And it's like Doc Holliday's fucked up most of the time on whatever he's drinking in that little cup. I'm sure it's some sort of
Whiskey.
laudanum.
No, it's whiskey. He's
It's
just
whiskey, but
drinking-
he's high all the time. And also, this guy, he gets really fucked up and makes a big mistake. And
That's
his-
a true story, by the way.
And Wyatt
The opium scene with the
Wyatt
gun.
Earp's wife is a junkie.
Yeah.
And it's like and so
She's a
everybody,
prostitute.
She's
too.
a junkie. Apparently, in the real
there's-
story,
there's
the Powers
amazing-
Booth guy, he really did that. He got high. He went
Yeah.
out in the street. He didn't meet apparently in the real story, it was less sort of malicious. He was really just fucking.
yeah, he's like
Yeah, he was like, and he hit someone though. He hit someone. Dude.
Well, but in the movie, even if you really pay attention to that scene, he's
He doesn't really mean to hit him. Yeah, yeah.
As soon as he goes down, he's like,
He's like,
Fred?
oh shit,
Fred,
Fred.
what
Yeah,
happened,
that's right.
Fred?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
You're
part
right.
part of being fucked
Which is
up,
pretty
right?
realistic of what happened, to be honest.
Now, the thing is, this theme runs out because you realize that Josephine has attraction to Wyatt, right? And it's like it's unrequited because he's married to this junkie, right? So you're waiting for something to happen to the junkie wife, and by the end of the film, something happens to the junkie wife
Off camera.
off camera, and so love conquers
yeah,
all.
we don't need a scene of her dying of a laudanum.
No, it was
overdose.
enough to have the voiceover,
which was also true.
Yeah,
Which was also true.
yeah.
Wyatt Earp's
But
wife.
apparently after he hooked up with Dana
Yeah.
Delaney's character, right?
Hey, laudanum was
Well,
like
yeah, he
legal back then.
marries Marcus. What's her name?
Yeah,
Josephine.
Caroline.
Because they're both buried in Colma in the Jewish.
that's
cemetery.
right. About 2 miles from here.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I do want to point out there is one shot in this movie that I think is fucking spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
And it's after Morgan dies and he goes out into the street. He's got the blood on his hands and he goes out into the street and it's pouring with rain.
Mhm.
And what happens is the camera's following him as he's going down the street. And then he's like, why?
Mhm.
You know, and it turns and you see Dana Delaney run out towards him and he screams like, "Get away from me! Get
Mhm.
away from me! Don't you understand?" And then it comes back down, like the camera lowers a little bit and then comes back down and pivots around to the other side, and you see Maddie standing there,
Uh-huh.
having just watched that happen.
Right.
And he
Then she
tries to come
knows.
up, to her, and she turns around and walks
That's
away,
right.
and he's just left there covered in his brother's blood, and like the rain has soaked all the way through his shirt to the point that it's clear. And
Right.
it's this really amazing moment that shows
Well,
er, breaking. It shows him breaking as a person.
and it also shows her knowing something's up with the two of them.
Yeah.
Right.
But you've actually just pointed out both this film's strength is also its weakness, which is they had to condense a lot of story into little teeny moments because they weren't allowed to do the long script. Now, the long script probably would have been a movie that would have made a lot more sense and been tonally a lot better. So what
Like
you
a
have
David
is
Lean type story.
Oh, Jared, that reminds me of the other thing that's wrong with the second half of this movie is there's these 2 long montages of them just murdering all the cowboys.
sure.
And it's just I guess we're getting kind of long here. So then they killed 12 other guys.
Yeah, right.
I think those are
Well,
kind of funny, actually.
and a
I think
scene
those are
like
kind of
Tad
funny.
just described, or even a lot of other scenes would have probably in the original script been drawn out and done in a way that was sort of more of how it really happened, or more emotionally impactful. But what you have is cutting corners. That's what you have in this movie.
Yeah.
Now, I love this movie. I still think it's wonderful, but they're cutting so many corners because they sort of have to,
kind of had to,
or were forced to. But and so you get a lot of these ADR narratives, like someone just saying something as someone walks away, right? Like, and by the way, blah blah blah, and you're like, that's a plot point, and like it's just like, yeah, okay. Like,
do you think that I think
like
that style became more popular later on? If you ever seen a remake of Magnificent Seven, it's just that's all it is. It's the 3-hour movie condensed down to an hour and a half.
I like the remake.
I liked it too, but it's also very.
It is stupid. It is stupid in exactly the right way.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's also very punctuated, like this film is. I didn't have a problem with the pacing. I actually thought this film was very engaging.
So here's a movie that might have been better if it had been longer.
Yeah,
Amazon recommended the remake of the Magnificent Seven immediately after I finished it, and I was
really?
like, "No, I have to go record a podcast about this."
Yeah,
okay.
But I unironically love this movie, and even as it was condensed down, like
I understand why
better...
it's considered a classic, and I understand why people love it, and I'm glad I finally got to see it.
It would be if it was longer, it would be probably a prestige film, which this is not. It's just a really fun movie.
And that's put a tie on to watch.
The cheese level's too high for this to be.
It is a little cheesy. It's a little bit like the guys with the white shirts versus the dirty guys, basically.
Yeah. I mean, in that montage,
there's just some. Kurt Russell has some moments where I'm just like, okay.
Well, in that montage of all the killing the cowboys, John, there's a scene where a guy is going for a pipe, but he takes the gun.
Yeah.
The gun barrel.
Jim needs a corner, man.
Jim, you just said something. I didn't hear it.
I was saying the 19th century was pretty cheesy.
That's
the thing
true.
they never get about Jesse James. He used to read all the newspaper stories about him and his brother, and he wrote letters to the editor correcting them. And
like factual errors about what he had done.
I shot him in the chest, damn it. And he had every chance to live.
That's a movie.
Anyway,
Jesse James on social media.
Hold on, Jim.
Parts for this movie that I really enjoyed because I pretty much agree with everybody. One is that I love the fact that they're all playing, or that Pharaoh had like a minor plot point in this thing.
That was nice.
Because that was the game of the Old West. It wasn't really poker.
That was Pharaoh, and yet, you owned a table back then.
You didn't need a full deck of cards for it. So if one of your cards got damaged by, say, somebody's blood getting on it, throw that one away. And
the game is called Pharaoh.
Yeah,
Pharaoh. Yeah, Faro.
Also, Billy Bob Thornton.
That's a Billy Bob scene.
And in fact, one of the characters.
Billy Bob scene's so funny.
God, that was great.
Let the man talk.
And one of the characters says, "That's a fool's game" or something when he tells him that he
poker is a legitimate way to make a living.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other
Back then it was.
thing is, or one minor point that annoyed me amongst all of the good recreations of this time period and sort of condensing all the stories together, because there was a trial. They were arrested and went to trial for
At one point.
weeks.
If you buy the special edition DVD of this, it comes with a printed duplicate of the map that Wyatt Earp drew for the trial
Oh,
that
yeah.
shows where like everybody came in and where they were and where the fighting happened and where
Right.
everybody moved to.
Is this the
Right.
gunfight at the OK Corral?
Has
Yes,
anyone been
exactly
there?
right.
Has anyone been there for real?
No,
anyone
actually,
visited?
never been there. No.
I've never gone, but I had a friend. But apparently, it's very, very small. It's a
No, it's-
tiny,
it's
tiny
tiny
area.
Town, yeah.
It's an alley in
No,
between.
the alley
two
itself,
buildings.
not the town, but the alley is really small.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
an alley in
Well-
between two buildings and the corral's behind it.
Right.
Right. And one of the buildings is the photographer's place, because
Right.
the OK Corral is like, two door fronts down or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing was I was annoyed that James Earp was not in it, whereas he came with Wyatt and Morgan and the other guy.
Virgil.
Wow.
So there
There was,
was
there was a whole nother brother.
there was a whole nother
How
brother.
fun.
They dropped his story.
Oh,
But-
interesting.
Well, just like they pretty much cut the women had much, much bigger parts in the original.
Yeah,
series.
the women were pretty.
and they just chopped the women out
Very
as
little to
much
do
as they
with it.
They all
probably
looked exactly alike, except one was a junkie.
Also, I was
Yeah,
just
it was.
Well,
What
and
was? Why
again,
were
she
they all
says-
blonde? Right?
because the East Coast. This is what Tad was saying. East Coast.
Uh,
That's the thing. Like sophisticated. Like I said, northern
As
kind of
for
women.
those guys quoting Latin to each other, I remember reading, it was in the biography of Oscar Wilde. He went to San Francisco and then they went into the mining towns, these mining camps, and he read his poetry and they did like soliloquies from Shakespeare and stuff. And they had a pretty intellectual audience.
That's awesome.
Amongst
how much did you love it? Or at least me, because I'd never seen it. When Billy Zane got off of the stagecoach, I was just like,
I
yes!
love
I know,
that.
it's
That
I
was
thought
great.
everybody was in this movie, and now everybody is in this
Everybody
movie.
Everybody is in this
The
movie.
fucking
They
guy
should have been
that's
carrying a
dude
kitchen
from-
sink.
Pretty much.
This guy,
Although
this guy is fucking guy, the Avatar guy, and the Don't
He's
Breathe
so
guy.
Oh
good,
yeah,
yes.
Stephen Lang. Yeah,
Stephen Lang.
He's in this fucking movie.
Everybody,
Because
everybody.
Loud don't go around
Everyone's
here,
in
Loud
this-
dog.
I mean,
Loud don't go
Billy
around here.
Billy Bob's in one scene.
Yeah, I
I
heard
kept
you the
expecting
first
him to show up again, and he's never there.
He was just getting started back then.
I know, and I only knew him
This is-
because he's the Pharaoh guy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the guy gets thrown out of the place because
God
they,
damn it! Yeah,
Huh?
he's
all right, all right.
That's a good Billy Bob.
That's not bad.
I
actually.
forgot you were here. You may go now.
yeah, that's the best.
Back
Oh,
to
John,
back, every
just leave that
time-
shotgun.
Every
It's so
time,
good.
every time
That's
he is
quotable,
on
that's
screen,
quotable.
So
every time
good.
he's on screen, it is a better movie.
Yep.
It is. I think this movie. I don't disagree, Chris, but I do think this movie is so quotable. In fact, it's over the years become like I could watch this movie at any time, any place. You could put it on. I could come in at any point in it.
Yeah,
I
it's
could
one of
start
those.
at the beginning.
Yeah, just start doing
I-
the dialogue.
Same here. I can just jump in the
And
middle of this film. anytime.
I'm just like having the greatest time.
Would you have
of
show?
my
Would you show
life,
it to your
dude.
kid?
We watched it.
Oh, you
I
watched
asked
it
him if he
together?
wanted to
Oh,
watch it again. I showed it to him like 3 months ago.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
nice.
fantastic.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
great.
And I was
do-
like, I'm gonna
I-
watch it again. You want to see it again? He's like, no, I already saw it. I was like, all right.
All right, go. He's
I don't
watched
think
mine. He's
anyone's
gonna play Minecraft.
really. I don't think anybody's really mentioned Michael Bean that much.
Oh,
in
yeah.
this.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
When we were kids.
Well, I mentioned it to
good.
the extent that I think this movie gets worse after he dies because he's such a presence in this thing. He's like he is the
But when you're-
he's a great foil for Doc.
when you're
Holland.
I always love Michael Bean, but when you're a kid, like this came
Me
out
too.
when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and that scene in the beginning when they, of course, they kill everyone and then they have the feast at the wedding, and it's awful, right?
Yeah.
But because it's like they even shoot they take the
I
bride
know, it's
inside and they
ridiculous.
kill her.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Michael Bean, that scene where he just stares out, like my friends and I used to do that to each other and just start laughing. We would make fun of it so hard, dude. We'd be like, let's do the Michael Bean stare, and we would
Yeah.
and we would just
It
be,
is.
you know, like
I am absolutely a Michael Biehn fan, and I love he plays a great villain, but I just love him in any movie where he plays a good guy because he's
Yeah.
so great.
But you know,
I'm
he's a
sad
good
we don't,
villain, man.
like, he didn't seem to be able to capitalize on the 90s to really, like, what is he doing?
yeah.
Yeah, he had his
He
moment.
should have been bigger than he was.
Yeah,
The thing is, he went from like with this Cameron, he went from Terminator, you know, to the Abyss, to good guy to the absolute bad guy. It was
Right,
great.
Yeah.
The guy's got
He's
range.
great.
You know?
He's great in the Abyss. dude.
Uh-huh.
he's great in the Abyss. He's great in Terminator.
Yeah.
one of the really interesting decisions.
And Aliens. Don't forget Aliens.
And
Oh.
aliens,
Yeah.
Going back to the actual history of this.
Mhm.
I think one of the really interesting things in this movie is that when Holiday shoots him, he shoots him in the side of the head
Yeah,
because in reality, it is the official cause of death for Johnny Ringo is suicide. He
Huh.
had a gunshot wound right about here,
The temple.
and not quite,
Oh.
but yeah,
it's like over the
and-
eye, but
yeah, like
yeah,
this
yeah.
area, and
Because
And
Doc
it-
Holliday
it-
is not a stupid man.
there has been all of this speculation over the years about whether or not he actually killed himself, whether he was killed by Holiday, whether he was killed by Wyatt,
Yeah.
whether he was killed by a couple of other people who were involved in Wyatt's federal posse, because
I
there were
thought
actually
they-
more people involved in that than is shown in the
posse
movie.
I thought they
Right.
did a really good job with that shootout scene.
Yeah, it
it's-
is. It was
it's
really well
so
done.
well choreographed.
Okay, Corral.
No.
no, the one where Johnny Ringo
Well,
gets shot.
all of them, to be honest. But
That was the one.
where
That,
Johnny
one-
Ringo and Doc Holliday square off, I love that.
that was like near the end of the
hold on, the
riverbed.
one where Kurt Russell.
Well, and they get
wades
so
into
close to each other
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yes.
the one where Kurt Russell wades into the river to confront.
That's the
Which
one.
is also
Oh.
based on testimony of a real
know,
thing
I know.
that happened.
Fucking-
Like I said, though, this is the walrus mustache of movies. They
What, Chris?
Really, they sweat the details.
That one was like, what?
All
I
right.
love
Yeah.
it all.
No,
Love
that's
it
a
all.
legitimate-
I'm
Okay,
eating it up
okay.
with a spoon.
in the
No, that's a
testimony
low
of the
point
other-
for me.
Hold on. So you guys, so the bad guys being called the Cowboys and wearing red sashes. That was.
They were.
They were
They
the
were
Cochise-
called-
They were the Cochise County Cowboys.
That's
was
right.
the name of the.
That would have been better than just calling them the Cowboys. Honestly.
I
But
didn't
they
call
were
that once.
colloquially
and
the
everybody-
known
Cowboys. I'm
as-
like,
It's probably like a shortening of the
Yeah, but they
term.
should have said it
Yeah,
once.
they were
Yeah.
Well, I
colloquially
think-
known as the Cowboys.
Everybody
think
in this
I-
movie's a goddamn cowboy. So-
Well, there's a cowboy
No,
movie. What are you
but
gonna
not-
do?
but-
That's the
see-
point.
but
They're
not true.
Yeah.
But
the
not
point.
true.
Urban
See, exactly.
people versus
This
That's
movie is
just-
educating your
Hey,
ass, Chris,
hey,
and you don't
I
even
didn't
know
see
it.
a
Right, 'cause the
single
Earps
cow
aren't
in this whole-
cowboys.
I didn't see a single cow in this whole movie.
That's true.
We just think of everyone in the Old West as cowboys. They're
Yeah.
not.
Kansas
That
City
one
on
made-
train.
I saw a
made
couple
wins
goats and I think a
every time
dog,
they
but
said
that's
it.
it.
Made me wins.
All right.
Fucking Wyatt Earp has his gun in his pocket.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, these people were not carrying, like, they weren't strapped all the
They
time.
didn't have holsters, you mean?
This isn't
Right.
that. This isn't
Yeah.
that Gene Hackman film with the
Well,
Sam Raimi one.
it's just
The
listen.
Quick and the
Hollywood
Dead.
Hollywood makes it. You can look up how many people were actually killed.
I love
It's
The Quick
not
and the
that
Dead.
many. Like
Yeah.
There aren't that many, yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, all right. That,
And
okay,
most of them were not standoffs. Most of them were like somebody would come up behind
no,
them.
come behind him and
That's
blow
a
their
really
brains
good
out.
way
A lot more
to
people got
die.
shot in
It's
the
a
back
really-
than
it's
in
a
the
really
movies,
good
right?
way to die, to walk out into the middle of the street and draw down on somebody.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's not, you don't
you know,
do
Death
that.
Wish.
There's an old Mad magazine from the 50s thing of talking about westerns, real westerns versus these kind of thing. Someone talk about getting head to head with a bar chair. It's like in the movies, like it falls apart and you like go back and fight, right? In the reality, of course, it would freaking kill him.
Yeah.
It wouldn't break apart at all and would
really
split your head
well-made
open.
chairs
Right.
back then. So
It was skull fracture, and that would be the
Well,
end.
and,
All right, this
what,
is the
and
end.
what did they do?
I
What did
saw
they do
somebody
multiple
get hit
times?
over
What do
the
they
head
do
with
multiple
a-
times in this
with
movie?
a
They
chair.
hit people with
Use-
the butt of their gun
That's
and
true.
knock them out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
That's all solid metal, basically.
Yeah.
It's
All right,
metal. It's
Well,
metal
he
and
does
ivory.
Well,
pistol
you-
whip one guy. doesn't he?
Ted, you just have to swing it hard enough to cause unconsciousness, but not permanent brain damage.
Listen, there are
Separate
so
cells.
many.
in line.
Yeah.
There are so
There's
many
probably
quotes.
a lot of permanent brain damage
I-
floating around. Like, people fell off of horses a lot.
Oh
back
yeah,
then.
because it's a long way down from the
You
horse,
can-
that's
you
for
can-
sure.
Dude, everything Doc Holliday says, first of all, is quotable. But there's so many, like, skin that smoke wagon and see what happens. I mean, you can do
Oh,
every
yeah. Oh.
single line in this
His
movie.
lines are great
Is
in this
great.
Yes.
Also, and I say it every single time when that first shot of him comes in the doing the poker game and it cuts to who he's playing with, I do the Norm Macdonald. That's right, you guessed it. Frank Stallone.
Yeah, Frank
All right,
Stallone.
okay, that's it. It's cards.
That's right. That's right.
That's cards time. Come on.
Oh, dude, the
I'm
biggest.
gonna,
Oh,
I'm gonna give it a
almost two
thumb
of
and a
these,
half.
man. I was very entertained. This was such a good
It's
film.
entertaining. It needed another go around on the
I don't have any problem
I
whatsoever.
love
Nah,
this
it's
movie.
fine.
It
Fine.
had flaws, but the thing is the charisma
Put
of
up the
every,
Chris is wrong sign.
I'm starting to watch this so much that I'm memorizing it.